So
Mhm.
today we are going to be actually talking about utilizing technology to improve driver behavior. And then we do have a guest as well who will be joining us here shortly. And her name is Melissa Wandall, and we are very excited that she is here today. So really thinking about aftermarket technology for observing the driver behavior out in the day-to-day driving world that we're in today, whether it's a family member or a child or a employees or a large fleet. It really doesn't cost that much today to do GPS driver behavior technology in vehicles. A long time ago, when I first started doing this, and I do mean a long time ago, it was very expensive. The devices were expensive, the service was expensive, the data plans were expensive, and now you're really looking at less than 75 cents a day just for your basic monitoring and driver behavior monitoring. Then when you talk about hardware costs, it does range just depending on what type of hardware you're utilizing and what you want that hardware to do. So the type of hardware is going to cost more is going to be the ones that actually talk to the ECM versus a hardwired device that's actually just plugged to ground power and ignition and is doing the basic driver behavior because it's based on accelerometer data. And that accelerometer data is basically on a gyroscope, and the ball sits inside the device. And as it's doing a harsh acceleration, the ball will shift forward, harsh braking goes backwards, harsh turn goes to the side, right? So those type of devices are a little less cost because we're not actually talking to the engine of the vehicle. The other thing is really thinking about that total investment, right? Per vehicle for just your regular fleet monitoring device. You're talking $315 a vehicle per year to 366 per vehicle per year. And that's, really on the high side. There could be other things out there that we can utilize that are less expensive, but you do lose some functionalities with the lower cost devices. So you start thinking about it from what am I trying to accomplish? Am I trying to mitigate the driving behaviors that I'm seeing today in my fleet? Or am I really just trying to make sure everybody's out there driving the best they can and reducing some speeding, right? I always ask everybody, what's your ultimate goal for your fleet? And really, some of our customers, they don't even monitor driver behavior. The only thing they want to look at is if there's an issue. And I'm one of those people that I think that if you are allowing drivers out there to drive however they would like, how they normally would drive their own vehicle, and if they're in a company vehicle, or it's one of your children or someone that you're trying to assist with their new driving, you may want to help them understand that they may not be a good driver. That's some things that we've had to address with customers where they've contacted us and said, hey, I think your device is broken. It's just telling me that I got harsh braking, telling me I got harsh accelerations, and I've always driven this way. Well, that's probably true. But you probably didn't know that you were driving like this because you didn't have this type of device previously. And so that's one of the things that I like to talk to people about a lot is how is it that you're trying to look at the data and then what is it we can do to help? So one of the things that is an ultimate goal is we want to reduce the number of fatalities on the roadways or serious injuries, actually like the fatalities to be zero. That's our ultimate goal. So as we look at this, 42,000 people just last 2021 died. We haven't gotten the last year's statistics yet. They will be probably out in May, April timeframe. And 39,508 crashes in 2021. And that was 61,000 motor vehicles, right? So that's increased from 2020. The Department of Transportation, estimates the cost of this to, and it's not just those involved in the collisions or crashes, it's actually all of us. We're all paying for this in our insurance premiums. We're all paying for this on day-to-day transportation or things that come up because of this crash that has now blocked our path of going forward. Now everybody's backed up and now other things are running late. So those costs aren't just for the immediate people that were affected or the immediate vehicles. It has a cascading effect that is throughout the community and actually can keep going beyond that. So I always like to remind people that it's not just those that are in the collisions that this affects. So out of those 42,939 individuals, 388 of them were pedestrians, And then 961 were bicyclists. And the most common thing I hear from people when I talk about crashes is, I think they're all teenagers. Well, that's actually not true. Um, there 3,058 teenagers ages 13 to 19 were actually died in these collisions. So it's not always teenagers. And if you want to look at the data, I'm more than happy to send anyone links to all of the data that is supplied by the US Department of Transportation and FARS. FARS is where I go for all of my data. So here's the statistics for 2021 all the way back to 2012. So when you start looking at how can I, as an individual or as a parent or even as a fleet manager of a large fleet, help impact making my fleet safer with that safe systems approach. The first thing is always looking at it from what is the easiest thing for me to start today, not tomorrow, not next week, not in a month, but today. I always tell people don't wait because there's going to be something that's going to prevent you from starting tomorrow. And then you're going to say, I'll do it the next day. So make that determination and start today. Pick something that you can start to impact with all of the drivers across your fleets or your one individual driver that you're monitoring, whoever it is. And that number one thing that we really want to focus on for most people, I will tell you, is speeding. That's the most contributing factor for speeding related fatalities and deaths. So when you look at that number, it's quite large. When you look at how much speeding was related, not related, yeah, there's quite a few of it. Obviously, it's a lot larger, but still 29%. These other things over here, we can look at later, but there's a lot of other things. So I always say speeding related is usually where most people spend their time. And the reason that is the next thing behind that is seatbelts, right? So how can I also affect that? Well, making sure that everybody's wearing their seatbelt. So not speeding and wearing your seatbelt. Now, this is shocking to me that this amount of people don't wear their seatbelts and are a driver. And as a passenger, I can understand that maybe in the back seat because, even as a kid, I never wore a seatbelt in the back seat. My parents never made us. So it's one of those things where you're thinking, okay, back seat, get it. But drivers, really, that's quite large. 9,169 were unbelted. So really think about what can you do as an individual or as a fleet manager and understand that those facts that we're seeing here are something that we can really make a change with every day, small changes, and start as soon as possible. So one thing I do remind a lot of people about was, when was the last time you had driver training? Now, if you work for a large fleet company and you have hundreds of thousands of drivers, you might have an annual driver training that everybody does. You may not. Some companies don't do it and some do. I find those that do usually have fewer events, fewer crashes. I don't know if it's related, but I will tell you that I have seen it. And so when you think about when was the last time you had driver training, it was probably with this nice thing on top of your car, letting everybody know that you were a new driver, which for me was not even to tell you, but it was a long time ago. So really understanding that online defensive driver training, in person, whatever your company or individuals can afford, is really something that we recommend. We have courses that we offer. They're all online through approved companies. And we offer these through our safety coach. So safety coach is one of those things where you can actually focus in on what is the issue and then understand, what can I do to change this particular driver's behavior? Is it that he did not know that he or she was, maybe speeding all the time? Maybe they're just used to driving that way. The other thing is really creating that encompassing, positive, environment where people want to do better. So I always say, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to be a horrible driver today. Nobody does it. It's just part of their nature. Or it could be that they're not having a great day. Something's impacting them emotionally. I've had where customers have called me and said, hey, this driver's never had an issue. He has been the best driver always. And then I started getting all these alerts today. Is the device broken? So everybody always thinks it's the device is broken. I don't know why. So we look at it, we go, no, there's something going on with this particular driver today. He's had 6 months of no driver behavior issues that you guys have set as rules. So they had harsh turning, harsh braking, harsh acceleration, speeding alerts all turned on, and he was triggering every single one of them the entire day. So what that comes down to is what is causing that change in the driver behavior. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, this driver, particular one, had a collision, rear-ended somebody that was stopped at a stoplight at 55 miles an hour. And what had triggered his driving behavior in that collision was an emotional problem. He had a personal problem, and he brought it to work that day while he was driving. So really taking that little bit of time to pick up the phone, give the driver a call, saying, "Hey, I'm getting all these alerts today. How's it going? What's going on?" Maybe it's work related. Maybe they just need to talk to someone. But that little extra step to just pick up the phone and have a conversation with someone to see what's causing those type of behaviors that you're maybe not used to seeing for that particular driver. Now, if it's someone who is traditionally always a driver that pushes the envelope and goes at right to that edge of what you have set for your speeding thresholds, or tries to do something that maybe is not great on your scorecards that you guys have made for your fleet. The other thing is celebrate those great drivers, right? Have those appreciations for their dedication or for their safe driving habits. Give them an extra PTO day. That's one of my favorite ones. I'm sure a lot of employees would also say, yeah, that's great. Public recognition, send out a social media campaign saying, oh my gosh, so-and-so is the greatest driver we've had, 0 speeding events, 0 harsh braking, like whatever it is. Maybe an upgrade to their company car, right? So there's maybe a company carpool that goes on. We had it at my old employer, and I don't know where I rated, but my car was 12 years old and was rusted out and was in the shop more than it was actually on the road. So obviously, I did not like my company car, so I would always like to upgrade at that particular time. There's other things like Safe Driver of the Year. So after you do like a short-term monthly, or maybe even do a shorter one that's like quarterly, whatever works for your organization or helping your individuals that you are really focused on helping be better drivers, make those rewards achievable, but also make it so that there's a long-term goal. That long-term goal is obviously the entire fleet or everyone driving safely and following rules. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I had to mute someone. So the last thing is, when you think of those big awards, those are things that you can, maybe have it donated by one of your customers. There's a lot of people out there that are really excited about that. And they're really excited about understanding how they can help other organizations be better. And if there may be someone you guys deliver services to, or you deliver products or something, they may want to jump in and help out and celebrate your drivers. So I really wanted to, before we hand this over to our guest speakers, I really wanted to make sure that everybody understands that this isn't like us, running out and going, oh my gosh, the sky's on fire. This is actually something that we see all the time. I think I spend quite a bit of time looking at footage and helping people understand what's going on and how this happened, and then zooming in on photography and looking at pictures and then pulling video out and stuff like that. So we do a lot of video telematics, but looking at the data and what we see, drivers are unfortunately breaking the rules of not only their company but of the law, right? So this particular driver is drinking before heading out for the day. Now, we are always very careful. We try to cover up people's faces. We don't ever let anybody see what it is or who it is, but our customers are always gracious enough to say, yeah, you can definitely use it, because they want other people to learn from what they have had happen to their drivers. Now, this one's only 3 seconds, right? 3 seconds changed a whole bunch of people's lives this day. I'm not even going to play the rest of it because I don't need to. Everybody knows what happens. So in 3 seconds, it went from somebody making a wide right turn in a semi and going less than 2 miles per hour to someone who could not wait for that semi to finish that turn and had to pass at that exact moment. at 70 miles an hour. And that was last week. So those type of things really are our everyday. And I don't think that enough people understand that it's not just, oh, this doesn't happen to my company, or we've never had a collision, or, nobody ever drinks. Well, it does happen. Up to customer saying, hey, this actually happened to a customer who's driving out on a gravel road. Did anybody see that? Well, no, but neither did the driver, but he felt it. So I don't know if you saw, the whole entire truck shifted. But right there, something ran out in front of him. We weren't sure what it was. It's an animal of some kind, but the driver didn't know either because he didn't see it. So if you're a driver and you just hit something, you're out on a gravel road in the middle of the night, you might want to pull over, check it, see what it is, or you might have to call 911 and explain to the cops that you didn't even see it and you hit it and you don't know what it was. So this was pretty simple for us to help this customer determine what it was. We're like, yeah, it's an animal. We don't know what it is either. We all took guesses, and I think mine actually won. I don't know if anybody else here has something in Q&A they would like to post that they think this is, but I have my own opinion. But yeah, it's a very weird animal. That's all I know. So without further ado, I am going to pass this over to Melissa, and she's going to go over, some of the safe systems approaches. She is an amazing person. She has done a lot of advocacy for safer roads, safe systems, and really looking at the whole solution for all of us, not just, one city, one state. She actually goes out and does national coalitions. So I'm grateful to her. And thank you, Melissa, for coming and spending some time with us today. I hope you can hear me okay.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for having me on today. I'm grateful to be here, and I look forward to doing some presenting and then answering any questions at the end that anyone may have. And good afternoon. I am Melissa Wandall. I'm the president of M3 Motivational Concepts, the president of the National Coalition for Safer Road. I'm an advocate, a philanthropist, and a national speaker. And I'm also an ambassador for Target Zero Florida, and also Vision Zero initiatives around the nation. And thank you for allowing me to be here today to talk with you about my personal story, my advocacy journey, and the outcomes of not implementing a safe system approach to driver behavior. I know Stinger Commercial has a passion for advancing vehicle technology, and they want every fleet to have the right tools to be successful. There are so many systems and life-saving technologies that can help us collectively achieve the goal of what Michelle mentioned before. We want zero serious injuries and zero fatalities on our roadways. So briefly, I'd like to share with you all what led me to be here today. It all started on October 24th of 2003, when my husband of 1 year and 5 days left our house to go to dinner, and he never came back. He was the passenger in my brother's vehicle and was killed by another motorist who ran a red light. Just 2 weeks before our daughter was born, we were 9 months pregnant on that day. My brother, who was also in that crash and today remains emotionally and physically debilitated. We must remember, when crashes occur, it can be tough for many different reasons, but when there's death and serious injury involved, the downward spiral of the domino effect is real. I couldn't just sit with this crash. I needed to act positively in my grief, and be a part of the safety solution moving forward. I investigated solutions that would aid and educate Florida's motoring public. I started researching red light safety cameras. how they worked and what and where they worked. I was educating myself to make sure that they were a viable solution. I reached out to traffic camera companies to learn firsthand knowledge from the best on their value. And then I reached out to policymakers, law enforcement, civic groups, the Chamber of Commerce to build a team to see if we could craft a bill in Florida that our policymakers would pass to reduce the risk of these crashes on our Florida intersections. After 5.5 years of education, advocacy, and crafting the right language, the Mark Wandall Traffic Safety Act was passed. The bill passed on May 13th, 2010. It allows red light safety cameras at the most dangerous intersections in the state of Florida. Roadway tragedy does not have to happen. We all know that. It happens in a split of a second, but it does not have to happen. Automated enforcement is a big part of helping alleviate some of those solutions. This is truly how I became established as an advocate. My husband's death and my brother's diminished quality of life as a crash survivor. This advocacy work led me to the next chapter, which was becoming the president of the National Coalition for Safer Roads. Our mission is to connect and empower survivor advocates with the tools and tools needed to end road violence in their own communities. We bring together policymakers, community leaders, and concerned citizens to support life-saving technologies, advocating for their use in cities and communities across the nation, as we know that they are a part of the safety solution. And remember my daughter, Madison Grace, she too was a victim of this crash, which happened on October 24th of 2003. She never got to meet her dad. Mark was so excited to become a father, and the ways his absences has affected Madison's life are too numerous to discuss at this time in this platform. Madison still struggles to today to define who she is, not knowing where the other half of her has originated from. Throughout all of my advocacy efforts, my daughter has been by my side. My goal was to be certain that she felt empowered. I wanted to show her amid adversity that we can all do hard things. With Madison in mind, shortly after Mark's untimely death, I started a nonprofit in his name and her honor. Our nonprofit resources, aids, and uplifts children and teens in grief who have experienced the death of a parent, sibling, or guardian. Our program our programming is donor funded and free of cost to all the youth that we serve. We offer equine assisted learning. We offer a 3-day bereavement camp. We offer connections with our families. We offer scholarships. For the past 20 years, I have watched many of our youth grow up within our foundation, transitioning from confused to capable, from lost to leaders. Over the past 20 years, I've learned that a safe systems approach to driver behaviors is a holistic approach to road safety that aims to eliminate all fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. It is based on the understanding that humans are fallible and humans do make mistakes, and therefore the road system should be designed to account for human error and also to minimize the consequences of these deadly crashes. There are several components of the safe systems approach, of course, including addressing and implementing safe speeds, safe vehicles, safe driver behaviors, just to name a few of them. So, what are the outcomes of not implementing a safe systems approach to driver behavior? As you heard from my own personal story, the failure to implement a safe systems approach can have a wide range negative effect and consequences, affecting individuals, affecting communities, and affecting societies. There are several numerous negative outcomes, the first being increased crashes. Without a focus on safety, there is a higher likelihood of crashes occurring on the roadway, leading to serious injuries and fatalities. Higher fatality rates. They're prevalent because the lack of safety measures can result in more severe crashes, directly affecting drivers, passengers, pedestrians, and cyclists, all road users. Crashes produce significant economic cost due to property damage, medical expenses, legal fees, and lost productivity. And this is a direct effect on our economy. Survivors of crashes often suffer from physical injuries and emotional trauma. They find their quality of life and well being severely lessened. Just like my brother, who at the age of 50 is still physically and emotionally debilitated, he walks with a cane, he cannot work, and he has dealt with opioid addiction for years. Failure to implement Failure to not implement safety measures can result in legal consequences, such as liabilities for individuals, organizations, and governments, leading to lawsuits, fines, and penalties as well. And lastly, incidents involving unsafe driving practices can tarnish the reputation of organizations and governments responsible for road safety, leading to loss of public trust and confidence. Negative public perception is really hard to reverse. But I'm encouraged daily by the good work we are all doing to keep our citizens safe on our roadways. Education leads to awareness, awareness leads to engagement, and engagement propagates results. Collectively, I know we can achieve the goal of zero serious injuries and fatalities on our roadways by implementing safe driver behavior through available technology and through a safe systems approach. I'm grateful to be here today and to be able to share this information with you. I look forward to answering any questions anyone may have, and I'd love to turn it back over to Michelle.
Right. That's amazing. So I'm going to give you guys all a little bit of time to put your questions in. And we are going to have one last slide that I was going to say for last, but here we are. We're going to do it last. So for the remainder of 2024, so all of our new customers that are coming on board, sorry if you already are one and are paying for this, but thank you for using it. We're going to offer safety coach at no cost. We want everyone to be proactive and using these preventative approaches so that they can prioritize that safety. So that's my proactive, preventative prioritization, and make sure that all of our customers, all of our drivers are understanding their own driving habits, right? So that's why we, as an organization, thought it was great that we could create a safety coach for all of our customers that they can share with their drivers. Their drivers can review it, they can look at it, they can communicate back and forth through the platform with their coach saying, oh, I was on the phone, I'm so sorry, it was an emergency, I should have been paying attention. Or, you know what, you're right, I took that turn way too fast. Or even if it is a near miss, which happens a lot, where someone has pulled out in front of them and caused that harsh braking event, and if you have video, you can see it and say, great job. Like, you were really paying attention because that was so close. And, those type of coaching things don't always have to be based on a negative. It can be based on positive coaching as well, and reinforcing that good driver behavior, and sending out the quick, hey, great job on this last week. Saw that you improved tremendously. And we give you all the tools, all the data that you can look at to actually make those judgments and make those comments to your employees so that they feel better about what they're doing out there every day. And then obviously, as I mentioned, rewards go really far. I wish I had, the world's largest budget that I could actually, go out and say, I would love to give away something to the best driver, but I don't. So that's why I ask companies to think about even small incremental rewards go a long ways. And make sure that if you do have questions, or you're not sure about reporting, or you're just starting out, start today on something small. Like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be, we're going to take this on and we've got thousands of vehicles, so I'm going to focus on everything. I understand that's really a large chunk of things to take on at once. So if you can start today on focusing on speeding and, wearing your seatbelt, say, you know what, I really want to make sure that everybody in my organization that is driving a company car is following the rules and are not speeding, right? Set those thresholds, set those speeding alerts, and start making those connections to your drivers as it's happening. Set up an alert for them. Send them an alert when you have that same alert come to you. It can go to your driver and they go, oh, I did have a speeding alert today. I didn't even know it. Send it to them by email so they can check it when they stop. Simple things like that really can make an impact. And I cannot stress that enough. And if there are any questions, Anna, I'm going to go to you because you're collecting them today because I can't see.
I don't have anything yet.
Nothing. Okay, good. Well, we're doing a great job, Melissa.
Yeah, I know. I guess so. I want to say too, if I may, I think it's really important. I love all the points everything that you've touched on is so amazing. And I love your systems that you use. And I think one of the biggest thing is sometimes when somebody makes one judgment call one time and we're like, well, they made a judgment call. We saw that they didn't make a very good decision, or they only used their cell phone one time. So we're not going to say anything because I'm sure it's an isolated incident. I think we have to say it. I think it's like, we talk about if you see something, say something. I think it's really important that we hold each other accountable for how we drive, because as we all see at the last, at any given time, drivers are making these dangerous driving decisions and they're taking other people's lives as well as their own. So I think we just have to come to a place where we can be okay saying, okay, we have a fleet, we've implemented this, this technology. So that means that we really need to talk to, to the people that are driving these vehicles, and just remind them that the importance of safety. I just think that's so powerful and so important, and okay to step into that and let somebody know that, hey, we saw this, we know it's not something you normally do, but we really would respectfully ask you not to do that again because we don't want anything to happen to you or anyone else.
Great point. Yep. And I also will say, I am always here to help anyone. Obviously, I spend a lot of time doing one-on-one webinars with 3 or 4 different companies, whatever I need to help them look at their data individually or as a whole, and see if there's something that we can do to help with helping you coach, right? So that's our job.
Mhm.
We want to make sure that we're looking at the data as well. And if anyone looked at how much data we go through in a day, it's kind of amazing. And we look at every single collision that comes in, and on an average week, I would say 1 out of every 4 is a real collision. Um, 1 out of every 4 is usually an animal. Uh, One is usually they backed into something, they weren't paying attention, something happened. And the other one is usually the last one is the roads. So road infrastructure does trigger it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of potholes across the US. So we do look at the videos to see if that was what triggered it or if it was an actual event. And there's a lot of data that comes in, and we do collect roads because we're creating a database right now of all the large potholes across the US because we have so many of them. I think I've isolated close to 17,000 of them on highways. So infrastructure is another part of all the safe systems approach that I think that we can also help, is if we can let the people in our communities, in our DOT, in your states know, hey, there is a very unsafe road over here, and here's some imagery, here's a video of it. I have truck drivers going over it every day, or fleets going over it every day. Is there anything you guys can do to help? Right. I am one of those people that I will pick up the phone, or I'll just send them an email and say, hey, I've got all this data for your city, and these are all large potholes, or could be even something as small, but it does happen, as um, uh, I don't know what they call them, but they're almost like roadway blocks, right? They're movable, but people hit them all the time. And it does trigger another collision because they made the turn, right? And the turn was too sharp. So there's a lot of little things on the roadways that we could also help with safe systems. So if you see something, as Melissa just said, say something. See something in your community that's not quite right, say something to, those people in your community that can help make those changes.
Yes, and I think FDOT, I know with FDOT being in a lot of, obviously working with them on, on advocacy and different Target Zero initiatives. And so I get to be in a lot of the meetings, and there's times, I've been NPOs or TPOs, and people will talk about, oh, did you know that there's this going on this road? And somebody from FDOT will say, you know what, thank you so much for letting us know. We're going to take a look at that. Because they can't know everything all the time. We're the ones that utilize our roadways all the time. So I think that was such a great point, Michelle, to bring up that, you know what, yeah, let your DOT know if you see something that's consistent, a pothole, or different things in the roadways, so that they can get out there and try to fix and see how they can be a part of the solution. Because that's what that safe systems approach is. If we all are not working together, then we're not going to get to that, big zero that we all want to get to. But through the safe systems approach, through technologies, that's why it takes everyone working together. Not one thing can do it alone. It's all of those components that are going to drive down heartache on our roadways and save lives at the end of the day.
And I recommend saving the phone number to the DOT on your phone. I have it for FDOT because I've called them enough times. They probably don't look after again. It's one of those things where, I'll be driving, and it's honestly, I've had large trailers of unfortunate stuff. I'm not even going to say what it is, but hurricane debris or hay. I had a whole load of hay fall off a trailer on I-75. If you know Florida, it's kind of crazy. And I have voice activation in my car, so I just tell, I'm not going to say her name, and I say call FDOT, and I say it just happened. Here's the mile marker, and they always go, okay, we'll send someone out. Because I know it's going to cause a problem when you have 70 bales of hay on Interstate 75. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Big backups, big backups.
Big
We don't need
backups.
any more of that.
We do those fine on our own here in Florida.
Yes, absolutely.